morning, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily. My name is Yannick Parch, and with me is Tim Diacono. I'm going to be running you through today's top stories. After that, please stay tuned. We have the MEP candidate and the PN's new chief spokesperson, Peter Ajus, who will be discussing his new role and the changes underway in the party at the moment. Before we start, just a quick reminder, if you haven't subscribed already, to sign up for Lovin Digest, and you'll get the day's top stories, a breakdown of the day's top stories sent directly to your inbox. So on to today's headlines. Our first headline is Mark Lawrence Amit will stop presenting his show on PBS due to what he claims is political interference. A Panama Papers source was forced to quit his job after being discovered by OPM officials stalking journalists. Nationalist Party is to file a no confidence motion in Justice Minister Edward Zammit Lewis over his chats with Jorgen Fenech. Pregnant women are now being advised to get vaccinated against COVID-19 in view of complications arising in pregnancy. And a Maltese man will be taking on the reigning arm wrestling champion in a matchup here in Malta.
Yes, so thank you for that, Yannick. A big story yesterday, the most popular discussion show in the country, Labour Fossil Jimma, has been cancelled after the host, Mark Lawrence Amit, went all out against what he claimed to be excessive interference by the people at PBS. So he said, this has been my dream to host a show on TVM, but even the best of dreams can quickly turn into a nightmare if you cannot live it out in peace with your conscience. So a very bold statement from Mark Lawrence. He's not the only one who's speaking like this in terms of the way PBS has become quite controlled and how the central authorities at PBS are controlling the editorial influence of the individual show presenters and journalists. And yeah, he went out in a ball of flame, so to speak. He's now going to be joining the Times of Malta. It has to be said that the executive chairperson of PBS is presenting a counter argument to Mark Lawrence's claims. He's saying that I never interfered with what he did, but we do have very strict and very rigid conditions of objectivity and of balance, and maybe Mark Lawrence wasn't comfortable with them. Now, there might be, I suspect there is probably some truth to this, in the sense that one of the big problems I find with PBS is the absolute rigidity of these regulations that go against, I understand there needs to be some kind of regulation, but when it's too rigid, it goes against the editorial independence of the presenters and the journalists, and that's going to just put them off. You don't want to work in an atmosphere where you're in such a tightly closed box where everything you do can be, said, you're not being objective enough, or you're not being impartial enough. Then you just become you don't become impartial. You just become bland. You just become stale, and it's a huge problem within PBS and something that needs to be addressed.
No, there's definitely an element of that, but to a certain extent it must also be viewed within the context of, for example, the Broadcasting Authority having on a number of occasions found the PBS of not having been impartial enough, and even having the PBS had even refused to publish a correction that they were ordered to do so by the Broadcasting Authority. So on to our next story. An unnamed person who acted as a source to journalists following the Panama Papers leak in 2016 was forced to quit their job after a journalist they had been communicating with was stalked by OPM officials. The information was revealed by the public inquiry into the assassination of Daphne Caruana Galizia, which was published last week, and which heard one journalist recount in detail how he was stalked by people linked to the office of the Prime Minister and former Chief of Staff Keith Kembry. The journalist told the inquirer how they had met with the source on one occasion after reporting on a Labour Party activity, in the run-up of the 2017 election. At the time, the country had been rocked by the revelations about the existence of 17 Black, as well as the claim that Grant belonged to the wife of then Prime Minister Joseph Muscat. In fact, the snap election was called shortly after the claim was first published. The inquiry heard how these officials close to the Labour Party and Labour administration had followed the journalist to a bar and had even succeeded in recording the conversation between the journalist and the source. The board condemned the act, insisting it showed attempts by the government to silence journalists and to hinder their work, rather than safeguarding them in order to have matters of public interest investigated. It's quite a shocking, quite a chilling thing to hear, that you could be followed to a bar. In fact, I was in court for this particular sitting, and I remember how it was.
You were in court?
Yes, and I remember how it was described. Kind of, they went to this bar, they sat in close proximity to them with the phone pointed in the direction. Like it's quite a quite a
no one
scary.
noticed. No, it's like you said, it's quite chilling, but it's also, I suspect there's some criminal element to it too, right? So the police should better be taking this seriously, and I hope that people will be hauled to court over this. Even to the Prime Minister saying we need to safeguard journalists. Like, the way to do it is to actually take action against these outrageous behavior by top people in the higher echelons of power. Moving on, the Nationalist Party is going to file a motion of no confidence against Justice Minister Edward Zamit Lewis over the latest chats between himself and Jorgen Fenech that were revealed in the media. So just a quick rundown. The Times of Malta yesterday revealed that Zamit Lewis had a press conference in January 2019 where he criticized former PN leader Simon Busuttil for trying and failing to get to the courts to open a magisterial inquiry into 17 Black. 17 Black, of course, was the buy company that was owned by Jorgen Fenech. So Simon Busuttil went to the court to try and get this inquiry open. The magistrate told him, denied his request and told him off for doing so and for trying to turn justice on its head. Zamit Lewis organized a press conference, and after that press conference, he sent a message to none other than Jorgen Fenech himself with a link to a news article reporting him and saying, "I hope you're well," which just really shows the closeness between the Minister of Justice and the potential murderer, potential journalist killer who has been charged with it. And unfortunately we've become quite accustomed to this sort of closeness, sort of familiarity between Jorgen Fenech and let's not lie, it's not just Jorgen Fenech. We know about Jorgen Fenech because his phone has been seized, and and his phone has been seized, and now all the messages are coming out, and it seems to be a gold mine of information over there. But I'm sure it's really just the tip of the iceberg. But at least it's finally coming out.
Yeah, it doesn't look good to have a government minister essentially trying to gain the approval of a businessman by one that they know to be compromised to some extent. Now to our next story, the Malta College of Obstetricians has urged pregnant women to get vaccinated in view of rising complications linked with pregnancy and the COVID-19 virus. Up until now, pregnant women had been advised not to get vaccinated for the time being. However, it looks like that advice has now changed, given as we said, that many complications are being noticed as cases of the virus spike. Vaccination is the best way to reduce the chances of contracting COVID-19 in pregnancy, so as to reduce potential complications to both the mother and the child, the college said. Adding that while COVID vaccinations may potentially reduce the risk of admissions of the mother to intensive care, premature birth of the baby and stillbirth. Quite a welcome, I guess, development, especially on the part of people who are pregnant, who have been kind of left feeling that they can't protect themselves from the virus.
Yes, it's quite a strong statement from the college, and the advice has actually changed, right? So before, the advice was not to get vaccinated unless you're in a high risk situation, but now, just in case you're concerned about the risks, the College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists is were quite the experts in this field, right? And they're saying it's safe, and that evidence shows it is safe to get vaccinated. So good news on that front. And finally, pretty fun story. A Maltese arm wrestler who goes by the name of Kirsten Prodigy will be taking on the current world champion in arm wrestling, a certain Bozidar Simionov, a Bulgarian national, in a matchup in Malta next February. So Kirsten had published a video on YouTube openly challenging this guy to a fight, and Bozidar responded with his own video with his belt right on the table. The cards are out, accepting the challenge. Now this is, it's quite a niche sport, right? Arm wrestling. I didn't even know it was so big as it was. And in fact, Malta doesn't even have its own federation, which unfortunately means people like Kirsten can't even compete in world championships. But yeah, something like this, it will hopefully elevate the status of arm wrestling in Malta. And if he wins, he will instantly go potentially to the very top of the charts globally. So the stakes are quite high.
Good luck, Kirsten. So that's it from us today. We're going to cut off to a quick video, and then we'll be back with Peter Ajus. Stay tuned.
In Malta, we don't say.
Perfetti maħniex, żbalji għamilna u żbalji se nagħmlu, imma determinati li nkomplu mmexxu lil dan il-pajjiż b'onestà.
Welcome back to Lovin Daily. With me now is Peter Ajus, the new chief spokesperson of the Nationalist Party. Hello, Peter. Thank you very much for accepting this interview. So, chief spokesperson, a new role within the party. What does it entail, and what does this really mean for the party? Like having a new full-time position like this in the party. Like, what's going to change?
Well, essentially, we need to reach out in a more creative way to the people out there, and with a more coordinated message across all the front. I mean, be it all the spokespersons, candidates, MPs, and whoever carries our flag. So my role will be to instill a sense of creativity, but a sense of discipline also in how we present ourselves to the electorate, and make sure that our huge efforts in terms of policy, because the Nationalist Party is a machinery producing ideas and policies, through the clusters groups, through the members of parliament. We need to make sure that this gets out there, because what we're seeing is that time and time again, our efforts are not reaching enough, not reaching necessarily the relevant sectors. So I'll try to put in a bit of my experience having campaigned across the islands
It's not
as an
reaching
MEP
them,
candidate.
or they don't like the message.
Excuse me?
It's not reaching them, or is it reaching them but it's not changing their vote? Because there's a bit of a difference there.
Yeah, there are two levels of complexity, yes. But the main one is for the message to reach. And what we're seeing is that in some areas, the message is not reaching at all. And this is not necessarily a PN question. I think right now, when you see case after case of bad governance, corruption, sleaze in politics, you know, our politics has ended up speaking more about the politicians than the ideas that the politicians have for the people. So this kind of alienates the people out there on what politics is all about. And in a way, we're suffering it more than anyone else, because when the media, then the headlines are dominated by the misdemeanors of the politicians, then the messages on the politics, on the ideas, get second, third, or fourth priority. So it's a constant challenge. And my role will be try to help out in this in a team, of course. I'm not on my own. I try to bring my creativity, my ideas, but it's within a team, and I must say there is quite some good teamwork going on right now.
Okay, so let's get into the big story from yesterday, which Mark Lawrence Zammit announced he's going to be stepping down as host of L'Erba Fost il-Ġimgħa due to what he's described as excessive interference by PBS. Lovin Daily revealed that the show will be replaced entirely by a new show hosted by Quentin Sherry, who until recently hosted Popolin. Now, your instant reaction on Facebook was to say, you know, that Quentin Sherry used to be a Labour mayor and that he will undoubtedly try, in inverted commas, to be objective. It sounded quite sarcastic, your post. Like,
Absolutely.
Does it mean that you don't think Quentin Sherry will manage to be objective?
You know, Tim, it's hard to be objective in a system which is pushing you all the way to side with the government. You know, the resignation of Mark Lawrence Zammit is outright shocking. I mean, he's telling us, I resigned not because I don't love this job. I love this job. I love to bring out the issues, to interview people and put them, you know, in a corner to give us replies. But they didn't let me to do this. They wouldn't let me bring out the realities. They would want to get certain people or certain agendas, certain teams before others. And this is why I mean, Mark Lawrence's outburst is simply one in a series. Let's remember, Pepe Azzopardi was also axed, a person of considerable talent, was axed from the PBS schedule. And we're seeing constant maneuvers with PBS and TVM in particular, putting the Nationalist Party fourth, fifth, sixth item, or not even featuring at all. Sometimes you had the speeches by the leader of the opposition, Dr. Bernard Gregg, not featuring at all in the news bulletin. You had the Broadcasting Authority condemning outright PBS for this, and PBS not giving a right of reply, not airing a right of reply. So this is outrageous. This is shocking, and I do not trust PBS. I do not trust TVM that it is portraying a fair balance between the political offer at hand right now.
So when you hear the executive chairperson of PBS say that Mark Lawrence's departure was probably due to his own, that is Mark's own, discomfort with the regulations and balances that PBS imposes, what do you make of that? You don't seem to be...
You know what I make of that? I make that Mark Zammit has discomfort with the way democracy operates in this country. How should a CEO of PBS tell a journalist on what are the parameters that the journalist should follow?
Because those are the rules. Like, you can disagree with them, and I do disagree with them, but there are very strict rules for PBS journalists to follow.
Yeah, there are very strict rules on assuring impartiality, on objectivity, and PBS are breaking these all the time. And Mark Lawrence was trying to find the right balance, and then there is a bureaucrat telling him, where is the line? This is what it's all about. So I don't think Mark Lawrence has a discomfort with an open democracy. It's more that PBS has a discomfort with a fair balance of platforms for political parties or political offers, of an agenda which respects the people out there, which does not insult their intelligence. And this is what it's all about, and we are seeing it time and time again. This is not an isolated incident. And when you axe Mark Lawrence and propose Quintin Sherry, okay, government consultant, Quintin Sherry is on the payroll of a minister. I think this is frequently forgotten, but it is documented in a PQ, a parliamentary question, okay, put in Parliament recently. And Quintin Sherry is a former Labour mayor. What do you want? What do you want more evidence to see that this guy can hardly be impartial? And Tim, you know media really well. Huh? You know how you can very subtly pass on the message that one political offer is less relevant than the other. This is what it's all about. Huh? Right now we're trying to speak to the people, telling them, listen, you don't have to accept this incompetence. You don't have to accept this sleaze in government ministers. We can offer you better than that. But if our offer is constantly put fourth, fifth, sixth priority, or if our offer, if the leader of the opposition, Dr. Bernard Gregg, is put on tvm.com.mt, as a top header for just a few minutes, maybe an hour, and then Robert Abela's speech is put there for a whole day, this can be done in a very subtle manner. So let's not take that objectivity can be assessed in because you can have the appearance of it, but you can have none of it at all.
Isn't there any show of false equivalence though? As at the end of the day, or if the prime minister announces something, right? It is more in the national interest sometimes than what the opposition leader says. So could it be that TVM is literally assessing it according to what they see as in the national interest rather than to please the Labour Party?
I'm not saying that a speech of the leader of the opposition should precede a speech by the Prime Minister if they are on the same topic, okay? But if the leader of the opposition takes an initiative which is a news in itself, then it should be the main news. Then it shouldn't be treated as a secondary item. And I think people out there realize, okay, TVM is becoming...
if it's like number one or number two on TVM's news, though, as in what's the difference? If TVM, reports a story as its first item on the bulletin or the second item, does it really make a difference? Is this the real problem, though?
I would be happy with second item, Tim. The thing is that most of the things don't get reported at all, okay? So, and when you have discussion programs, okay, disregarding the positions of the Nationalist Party, or systematically choosing teams which are more convenient to government than to the opposition. Let me ask you a question. The public inquiry, okay, it's a very important topic for discussion. Everybody should know more or less what it was about. It was an outright condemnation of a government, of a system with collective responsibility for a culture of impunity which led to the killing of Daphne Caruana Galizia and to hiding all the cases, 17 Black, Electrogas, Vitals, all these cases were of immense public interest. But this system, this culture of impunity, made all the effort to bury all of this. Now, how much was this explained in the public broadcasting services? We had the Prime Minister's appeal, okay, asking for an apology, okay? We had the Prime Minister's pitch saying, we will protect the journalists. Seriously, who's taking this? Who's taking this seriously? I mean, did the public broadcasting services explain in detail what the inquiry was about? Did we inform the public about this? Or did we just use this as a platform for the Prime Minister to react to it? Now this is a matter of concern, Lovin Malta, like many other independent media, felt the duty to explain the public inquiry, and you did a good job in that. But our public broadcasting should play a major role in this, and it is not playing it. And it is not playing it because there are interests who would want that the government's message is given a better platform than any other message.
Okay, but just to round this up about Quintin Sherry, though, the point that he used to be a mayor of the Labour Party 7 years ago. Does that exclude him then from being part of TVM because of his political past? Because in that way, it's kind of like tarnishing someone just because they used to be in politics a long time ago and saying, okay, now he's
That's the fact that he is a consultant to a minister, a Labour minister, so having an evident conflict of interest, being on the payroll of a government minister, does that exclude him from being a PBS presenter? Where do you draw the line, Tim? Let's put this in context. Huh? Let's put this in context. I mean, you ask Mark Lawrence Zammit, you get Quintin Sherry. Okay? You have a public inquiry telling us, after a barbaric killing of a journalist, of a foremost journalist who was uncovering truth in many major public scandals, okay? An inquiry telling us there is a collective responsibility of government ministers hiding this truth. And then you get this. And then in the meanwhile, you get Robert Abela telling us we will be proposing initiatives to protect journalists. Seriously. I mean, Abela has to walk the talk.
So some people
we have to go beyond this fancy press conferences, fancy headlines, and do what we really mean to do.
So some people are calling for a boycott of everyone who advertises on TVM. Do you agree with this?
No, I don't agree with that because PBS is offering a platform to many commercial companies. There is a lot of businesses and interests involved. I mean, this is my personal view here. I'm not speaking for the party. But I wouldn't go there. What we want is a better PBS. We don't want to stop PBS. We don't want to put a muzzle on its face like they are doing to people like Mark Lawrence and Pepe Azzopardi. We want the PBS to be really a public broadcasting services. We want the news of the day to reflect the political balance of the day. Okay? We want PBS to reflect the initiatives being worked on in the Nationalist Party, the voices that are coming out, okay, in anger or frustration for the government. I don't want to boycott PBS. I want it to be better.
Yeah, and Bernard Gregg said yesterday that the party is actually considering some kind of legal action against PBS to force it to do its job better, which seems quite interesting. What kind of legal action are we talking about, though? As in, there's going to be some kind of constitutional case against PBS. There's going to be, a call for damages. What kind of legal action?
We are considering all options. All options are on the table, Tim, because this is a very serious matter. We are months away from a general election. Okay?
If not less.
And our constitution expressly foresees that there is an equality of arms between political parties, between political offers. Now, the fact that PBS is systematically putting the Nationalist Party at a disadvantage is a matter of serious concern. And we will not shy away from any of the possible actions at our hand. Okay? So, political, legal means, okay, we will stand ready to defend the people's right for a balanced information.
So, the public inquiry issued several recommendations for the future of the journalism industry in Malta. Now, one of them was a revamp of the broadcasting authority so that it can better revamp PBS. This is something that many people have been talking about for years, for over 10 years as well. But it also calls on the party media station to obey the constitutional obligations of impartiality. Not just PBS, also the party media station. So why doesn't PN lead by example with NET and make it an impartial station? I mean, Bernard Gregg had said he's going to do something like that a while ago. He hasn't.
Let's not have a blue skies discussion here, but reflect on what's happening right now. If you look at net news right now, it's much more balanced across the board than One News. It's much less propagandistic in its tone. It offers a platform to Labour ministers to explain their positions. When has ever One News given a platform to the leader of the opposition to explain things sincerely? They just focus on a jibe, they just focus on a funny face, and that's it. Now, that's one thing. The second thing is that the Broadcasting Authority already has powers right now. It's true. I think the inquiry makes a very good point there that we need to strengthen the Public Broadcasting Authority. But the Public Broadcasting Authority right now has already expressed clear misgivings on PBS, including as of recent, asking PBS to give a right of reply for the Nationalist Party, and PBS in an outrageous, in a shocking way, refusing to air this right of reply. They did it like a month after the incident, so when it was totally irrelevant. So let's make use of what we have right now, and indeed, then we must improve on it. But there needs to be goodwill. And what's lacking right now is that goodwill. Okay? When you get the Minister for Good Governance, Edward Zammit Lewis, openly texting, not openly, secretly rather, texting Jorgen Fenech on how to handle 17 Black. I mean, the writing is on the wall, guys. I mean, how can you expect goodwill from these people? So we need to push forward for a sincere handling of things in Malta. And the Nationalist Party will be an even bigger voice for this fair treatment, for this good governance. But after all, good governance is about you and me, Tim. It's about the people who are watching us. I mean, let's not detach this from the people following us.
But there's also different opinions on what good governance entails. So, like, one very clear example is last Friday, right after the public inquiry was published, right? Repubblica calls a protest in Valletta immediately after, almost a few hours after, and one of its main demands is that the entire cabinet should resign. Every single minister should get out and be replaced by some kind of interim government. The PN was there. A lot of the PN leader was there at the protest. They actually encouraged people to go. There are several PN politicians over there. It doesn't mean that the PN thinks every single minister who is currently in cabinet should resign as soon as possible.
Tim, Repubblica is a pressure group.
I know, but the
Nationalist Party is a political party. We have our structures, we have our protagonists, and we decide according to our structures and our protagonists.
But you endorse the protest.
We endorse the protest as a manifestation of anger towards government, as a manifestation of intolerability, that we do not accept the state of affairs. We wanted to lend our support to any movement, showing our dissatisfaction with this, our intolerance with the state of affairs. And we are taking the action. The Nationalist Party is about taking actions which lead to results. And this is what we're doing right now, submitting a motion of no confidence in Edward Zammit Lewis, in cahoots with Jorgen Fenech, orchestrating, he's like his PR officer, trying to cover the tracks of 17 Black, and we know where that led, Tim. So the Nationalist Party will do whatever it takes to give a voice to the people, who are angry, who want a better government. But as I was saying before, this is not simply about the misdemeanor of Edward Zammit Lewis. This is about our freedoms. Because if they can silence Daphne Caruana Galizia, if they can silence Pepe Azzopardi and Mark Lawrence, they can silence you and me, they can silence everyone. Imagine you're working in a government department or in a government authority and you want to voice your dissatisfaction with any matter, be it the electricity bills where they are stealing us day in, day out, be it the state of the environment. Yeah. Imagine how free are you in today's Maltese society to voice your concerns. Yeah, if they can silence people like this, imagine what they can do to you and to me and to Tim.
But you didn't answer that question entirely though. So do you think the entire cabinet should resign or just Zammit Lewis?
We will consider our strategy in the right fora. So I will not associate myself with that. I will follow whatever the leader of the party and the Nationalist Party structures decide. What we have on the table right now is a very concrete motion of no confidence in Edward Zammit Lewis. So we'll push where pressure bears fruit, And we will not stop there, Tim. Okay? The inquiry speaks about collective responsibility. So barring a very few people who were co-opted after all this mess happened, you know, every minister has things to answer for. Okay? For instance, I cannot forget the fact that we were putting a little candle or a few flowers on the memorial for Daphne in front of the law courts. You had people under the direction of Minister Owen Bonici scrapping that, putting them in the garbage day in, day out. For 500 times, they insulted us. They insulted the memory of Daphne. Okay? That is collective responsibility. Minister Bonici was part of that too. And with him, there are a few others who have had a major role in absconding, in burying, in forwarding this culture of impunity before and after Daphne's killing.
So we're going to see motions of no confidence in each of them then, right?
I am not the one deciding the strategy, first of all. And our strategy is decided internally before it is explained in Lovin Daily.
Fair enough. Do you think that they should, though? Do you think that this is the right strategy, that you first go after Zamit Lewis and then go after Bonici and then another one? As in, just to bring it back to what you said before, right?
Will be more and more.
Sorry, just want to make one point. You had said at the beginning that a bit of an issue with the current state of affairs, that we focus on the individuals rather than the policies themselves. Like, isn't this what the PN is doing, though? They're like going after Edward Zamit Lewis, collective responsibility. Now you're mentioning Owen Bonici. Isn't this like individualizing it and making it a bit personal?
No. This is about. Listen, Tim, the Prime Minister said he will protect journalists. He said he accepts the inquiry in full. He said he wants to make an apology to the family. We're just helping Abela to walk the talk here. Huh? Because you cannot just speak in things in abstracto and then do nothing about it. So if he does nothing about it, we will make sure that he has to do something about it. But of course, we will give time due and we will take measures when they are most likely to lead to results.
Okay, so yesterday, Malta Today's co-founder Xavier Balsan wrote an opinion piece, a very strong opinion piece. He urged the Prime Minister to react to the public inquiry by calling a snap election. In his words, we need a fresh start, and that fresh start can only be facilitated by an early election that will award full legitimacy to Robert Abela or the next Prime Minister of whichever political party. It does make sense, right? As in that we need a fresh start. It can only come through an election. So why isn't the PN calling for a snap election?
The Nationalist Party is ready for an election. We have everything set in place. But do we want another election like we had in 2017, where Joseph Muscat was using the election to bury his tracks? Now we know why that election was called. Now we know what happened immediately after that.
But it's different, though. It's a different scenario.
It's a totally different scenario, but same narratives.
To get out of the... Well, not exactly. It's to actually...
Same pressures.
It's kind of the opposite, I think. It's to get out of the Joseph Muscat administration as fast as possible.
If Robert Abela distances himself from all the main protagonists, if Robert Abela accepts that he was a main consultant of Joseph Muscat, that he was praised by Joseph Muscat as the guy who is giving him his best advice, okay, in public meetings. If Robert Abela denounces Joseph Muscat once and for all the sleaze that he put on Malta, leading to the blacklisting of our economy, leading to a missing investment, missing work opportunities, including for many youths out there still studying at university who will have a worse job market than we had at least a few months ago. Okay, now if Robert Abela is ready to reform the Labour Party in that way, then he might face an election in a better shape. But until that, he's facing the electorate
Yeah, but my point is, does it make sense to first call an election and then do this afterwards? Because at the moment he was elected to Parliament as an MP, contesting under Joseph Muscat's Labour Party.
I think he has all the
his
power
legitimacy comes from
as a sitting Prime Minister to do the changes that we need to be doing. Okay, I don't think an election is relevant in that context. But once again, we'll be ready to fight it whenever that comes, and we'll be ready to fight it with a sincere proposition. Okay, I was lured. I was convinced to come and give a lending hand to the Nationalist Party when I see the sincerity, the transparency, okay, especially under the leadership of Dr. Bernard Gregg. You know, we are aware of the mistakes that we did in the past. We are aware of our weaknesses, but we are convinced of our strength. And our strength is that the people out there want a cleaner and more sincere way of politics based on their needs. And this is one very interesting thing happening in the Nationalist Party right now. We are founding our policies in the people's needs, in the people's aspirations. This is what our clusters are doing. 150 people grouped under 13 headings, okay, of policy areas, who are reaching out there, who are speaking to the stakeholders, who are speaking to interest groups, and devising policies which are in their interests, which are responding to their aspirations, to their dreams. This is what politics should be about. It shouldn't be about Rosie and Skutayar's graft. It shouldn't be about Edward Zamet Lewis WhatsApping with an alleged mastermind of killing a journalist. It shouldn't be about Carmelo Abela's alleged role in a heist. It shouldn't be about this. It should be about the people's needs, the people's aspirations, and this is what the Nationalist Party is trying to do right now. And when Bernard Gregg says, come and help us, let's make your objectives our objectives. It's not about we patronizing you like Robert Abela does systematically, a top-down approach. This is about people with a cause, believing in something, joining efforts. You know, our weakness in a way is our strength, Tim. And the fact that we are behind the polls, the fact that we need to, reshape a party from a glorious party in the past, but now needing to find a way how to conquer a majority again. This might be seen as our weakness, but in reality, it's our strength. We are sincere in offering a hand to help with the causes of this country, and this is in direct contrast to the Labour government, to the Labour Party, with a top-down approach, with trying to buy out people's silence, and if it doesn't manage to buy you out, it will just try to get rid of you in one way or another, like they did with Mark Lawrence, like they did with Pepe, like they did with Daphne, like they did with 100 others. We are not like that. And when you see discordant voices in the Nationalist Party, in a way they are a sign of the strength. Okay, so it's true that we need to make a major effort in aligning the message, in reaching out there as a coherent voice, but this is our strength. So you will fit within that voice because we respect diversity, we respect your intelligence above everything.
Peter Ajus, thank you very much for accepting this interview and for being with us today on our show. That's it from us today. Make sure you follow lovinmalta.com.